as we talked about, is your actions to promote inclusion within your organization must be intentional and deliberate. And why do I use the word intentional and deliberate? Because what's happening a lot around, among us is that people are doing what I call performance. So a lot of these inclusive practices we are doing in our schools, they are performances, right? We are not intentional about it. We are not deliberate about it. Oh, we want to hire more persons of a certain class or a certain color or a certain race. But and so we advertise, we talk about we are doing, hiring practices. But at the end of the day, we still give the job to somebody who looks like us. Because as we said, we like people who are like us. And so we have to learn how to be intentional and deliberate about it. We have to learn how to pass the mic. We have to learn how to advocate for people who are different from us and we want change. So the diversity leader, let's just conclude with this one. The diversity leader, this is a summary of what we talked about today. The diversity leader has a strong awareness of self. You have to know who you are. You have to know who you are. And some of us need to challenge ourselves. We have to know who we are. Who are you as a person? Because that person is that leader, and that leader is going to be making decisions based on who you are. So if you're racist, you will be making some racist decisions. If you're homophobic, you're going to be making some homophobic decision. If you're against Christianity, you are going to be making decisions that look like that. If you are one of those teachers who have issues with single parent or students who come from a certain neighborhood, it will come out in your practice. It will come out in your practice because it is who you are. So you have to have a deep awareness of yourself, your biases, your prejudice, your privilege, and how you're going to work to unpack, unlearn, or as we said, disrupt that pattern in yourself, right? Not in others. We're talking about ourselves first. So a deep awareness of diversity. Some of us we are very much unaware. Some of us we are so unaware. Whenever I teach a class of students, and I realize you are so unaware of what's happening in your country, in your community, I'm very disappointed. What's happening in your community when it comes to diversity and inclusion? Who is being excluded? Who is the marginalized group in your community? Right now, we're having winter. It's winter now in Canada, where I live. And there's a lot of issues with people who are homeless. We have to be aware that there are homeless people around us. When we are inside our warm homes, we have to understand that there's an issue with homelessness. There's an issue we are having with homelessness and mental health. We have an issue with homelessness, mental health, and immigration and immigrants. So we have to be aware of who is being disenfranchised, who is marginalized, who is being pushed to the edges around us. A strong sense of differences, a capacity and a commitment to constant reflection. And that's why you're doing an assignment where you are writing reflections. You are writing that reflection because I want you to understand, as a diversity leader, as an inclusive leader, as someone who is desirous of being in administration, as someone who has power to make decisions, you have to be reflective for you to grow. Challenge yourselves in your reflection. I don't need answers. I'm not looking for answers in your reflection. I'm looking for you to show that you're going through a process of thinking, of unpacking, of self-examination, of growing, of retooling, of knowledge gaining, mm? Of door opening, of space creating. That's a reflection. That's the internal part that I want you to get at, of paradigm shift. Thank you for that, Michelle. Of paradigm shift. Some of we are stuck. We are stuck. We are stuck in some belief system. We are in denial, as you said. And a sense of empathy. I want you to really write down that word tonight. Empathy. Empathy. When we sit in our seats of privilege and power, how do we empathize? How do we understand the difference among us? I have met people who, I have met students who, when you say hunger, they don't understand when I say somebody's hungry. They don't understand what hunger means. They think, did they skip a meal while they're hungry, or are they on a diet? They just don't understand the context and the concept of someone having nothing to eat because they are from such a space of privilege. And nothing is wrong with privilege. Sometimes we talk that we say the word privilege, it comes up as a bad word. It's not a bad word. I have many privileges. My title as Dr. Campbell has given me access and privilege that I never had before. My financial status, my new or my increase or financial status have given me certain privilege. So nothing is wrong with privilege. I've worked hard for the privilege and the space that I know hold. But I'm also hold myself accountable to using that privilege to make sure I use that privilege to create space and access. And if I don't even create space and access, what I will not do is use that privilege to oppress, to deny, to exclude. Because that's what many of us have done with our privilege. We have used the privilege, the power to exclude, deny, discriminate, ostracize, locked out, right? Close up the space. We need to use that privilege to liberate people. So moral courage, and it's going to take some moral courage to do that. It's going to take some moral courage to do that. And then we engage in those courageous conversations that so many of us are afraid of. We have to talk about it. Some of us, we don't want to get into no argument about nothing. Be like, oh, don't get me involved. I don't want to get me involved in immigration. Don't get me involved in Muslim discussion. Don't get me involved in HIV. Don't get me involved in LGBT issues. Don't get me involved in the abortion. Don't get me involved in the homelessness. You have to be involved. And why is it that you have to be involved? Because you are leaders. You are leaders. You are going to have power, and you are going and you are leaders because you are people who you are leading. So you do not get to say I don't want to be involved. You do not get that you do not get that I don't even want to say if it's a privilege, because I don't consider it as a privilege. You don't get to say I don't want to be involved as an educational leader. Because when the bell rings in the morning and the 20, 25, 30 kids come to your class, you automatically are involved. Kids who have disabilities, you in your class, you are involved. Kids who have learning issues, you are involved. Kids who are come to school hungry, you are involved. Kids who come to school abused and molested, you are involved. Kids who come to school with mental health and depression, you are involved. Parents who say to you, I don't have lunch for my child, you are involved. A parent who said my child cannot do his homework because you give an homework online and I don't have electricity at my house. As a matter of fact, I don't have internet. You are involved because your job is now, how do I work with this child and this community and this parent so I can make sure this child learns something from me. Is included. I talk a lot about the days when I couldn't go on field trips as a child because my parents didn't have the money. And now I understand as an adult, as a teacher, how wrong that was. We can't have a learning opportunity, and students are excluded because they don't have the money. We have to find ways to make sure every child gets on the field trip. Every single child. And I know I don't have to tell you, I know you have creative ways of doing that. And keep doing that. That's called advocacy. That's it there. Advocacy. And I want to end by reminding us we have to build a climate that embraces diversity. Some schools you walk in, you could feel it's an inclusive culture and climate. You can feel students know they are valued. And you walk into some school and you can feel from you get to the school gate, you feel like you're walking on pins and needles. You don't feel welcome. There's no warmth. I have gone to schools in schools as a teacher. I've gone into the staff room and it's literally there are 4 or 5 teachers in the staff room and nobody looks at you. You say good afternoon, they barely answer you under their breath. You are othered. You don't want to go back. And I've gone to school where they said, "Oh my God, come, Mr. Campbell, get nice to meet you. Welcome to our school." That kind of stuff. And this happens all the time. And you have to model the desired behavior. You can't be the one out there doing crazy. You have to model the desired behaviors and establish policies, standards, and plans. We talk about this. We're going to expand on this last bullet some more later on in our course. We're going to look at the diversity leader and look at the establishing of policies in our schools, inclusive policies, equity policies, policies that really speaks to policies that speak to a climate of an inclusive climate, a policies that speak to change, policies that speak to growth in our school, and we're gonna examine some of that.